car crashes, defective products, dangerous drugs, injuries, and abuse. Across the state of Alabama, the attorneys, proudly sponsored by the law firm of Wright, are here to serve you. Your tough legal questions answered by our experts with the attorneys of Wright.
Good evening and welcome to the attorneys. I'm Art Franklin. So glad to have you joining us. Our topic tonight is nursing home and rehab facility awareness, how you can protect your loved ones and make sure that they get the care that they deserve. And joining us, we've got a special guest, Josh, is Devan Byrd. Good to have you with us, Devan.
Good evening.
Hey, and that intro's good. Like, I know you got the spring, you got a little spring cold. You sound good, though. That sounded better than I expected.
We're going to work through it.
So we're going to be talking about nursing home rehab facilities today. And when we talk about issues like this is kind of a complicated area of the law, as you'll see as we work through this. We bring experts like Devan on, and Devan is an expert in this area. This is what she does for a living, in addition to some other things. But rehab facilities and nursing home litigation is something that she's super involved in. So first of all, so happy to have you on.
Thank you, guys.
Absolutely.
I'm happy to be here.
All right. First of all, tell us a little bit about your practice and how did you get into this area of the law? Because as you know, not everybody does this.
Certainly, yeah. So I'm a Birmingham girl, an Alabama girl. I'm the granddaughter of farmers and the daughter of entrepreneurs. So I have been at this for a minute. I just like to represent, I come from ordinary people, like to represent ordinary people. And you're right, not everyone does medical malpractice work. It's hard, especially in the state of Alabama. The laws are written to protect the healthcare industry. I started this when I first got out of law school over 8 years ago and haven't looked back. I've enjoyed every minute of representing the ordinary people that are injured by the healthcare profession.
Let's look at nursing home and rehab facilities kind of from the 10,000-foot view. When does someone, I know this sounds like a simple question, but it can be complicated. When does someone really start looking at getting to a nursing home, and where are the circumstances you see where someone comes? It's not just when someone reaches an elderly age
Absolutely.
And they're incapable of maybe managing their own affairs on a daily basis. There are a lot of other reasons someone would come.
Certainly. So if you've just had a hip replacement, knee replacement, you may need help before you can go home to live independently. You need to regain strength, so you would go to what's called a rehab facility. A lot of nursing homes have a long-term wing and what is the rehab wing, where it is very intense physical therapy, occupational therapy to get folks back up on their feet. But what happens is a lot of times if you've had a hip or a knee done, you're unable to move yourself. And so when that happens, that's when we see wounds develop and other things like that.
You know, Art, one of the interesting things, I looked at some of the pre-production material that Devan helped us prepare. There are ways to evaluate nursing home facilities, and for folks that have parents that are close to this, you know, this is something that I take very, very seriously.
And talking about having a parent who's closer, my mom's 99. She turned 99 in January. My wife's mother is in her 80s, and we're looking at, you know, assisted living facilities, at least for her mom. My mom is still saying, I'm not going anywhere. That's her deal, and she's going to stay with one of us. But I think as we think about these facilities, one thing that comes to mind is how prevalent is the issue of neglect and abuse in these facilities?
Yeah.
Well, it depends on the facility. You always want to do your research. Look at Google reviews on different facilities. Also, CMS, which is the Centers of Medicare and Medicaid, they have different websites that you can look at where they review these facilities. You want to look at staffing. Talk to friends, colleagues that may have parents or have gone through similar situations, and they will have feedback too. But you definitely want to do a tour, and I always say you want your loved one to feel at home, because when you feel inspired and you feel comfortable, that's what prolongs their life.
Can I follow that up?
Yeah, absolutely.
What is that interview process like? Because I want to sit down. I want to talk to them and make sure that our parent talks to them as well.
Yeah, you certainly should. So typically it starts with the admissions, having an interview with you and your loved one. They will want to identify what their needs are. What are their diagnosis? What do they need? And that's important because if they accept your loved one, they're saying we can meet those needs. Our staff, our resident population. Based off of all of that, we've taken that into consideration, and we can meet their needs. We can make sure we protect them and keep them safe. And so, yeah, you want to ask as many questions as you can. You don't want to just make a decision on a whim because you're feeling pressure that you need to get your loved one in a place because you can't keep them in the hospital or whatever, or can't keep them at home. You want to interview them, go visit, go take site visits multiple times, ask questions.
Hey, let me ask this question. I know you mentioned there's a Medicare-based website, and I think as I saw some of the material that you helped us look at, you said you look at that website quite a bit.
Oh, I do.
All right. What are these websites, and do they give a star rating where someone can do a preliminary evaluation based on that
Certainly.
before they decide to narrow down to a smaller group?
That's certainly true, yes. So they have a 5-star rating system.
Okay.
And so obviously the lower stars, if you have half, 1, 2, 3, you definitely want to take a closer look at the facility as to why. And there are surveyors that come through the Alabama Department of Public Health that are supposed to do annual surveys. Now, since COVID, it's been years since a lot of these facilities have had a survey. Okay. That's the sad thing. And so now we have to be even more active in our evaluation of facilities before we put a loved one there, because we don't necessarily have surveyors going to check annually.
And I know we're focusing right now a little bit upon how to go find the right facility for your loved one or for yourself. And we're going to get into litigation and some of the do's and don'ts that you have seen. Mm-hmm. But on this issue of like finding the right location, is talking about cost early a bad question? Like,
No.
Does that set the tone wrong?
No.
Or because I would think that's a super important component to all this.
It certainly is. And let me just tell you this, the most expensive facility may not be the best facility. Yeah. You also have to consider the financial settings of the loved one, because there are what's called look-back periods. It's usually a 5-year period, and if you've given land away to a family member as a gift, that can be seen as trying to divest of assets and disqualify you, where you would have to pay for a certain period of time to be in the facility. And so that financial considerations are important, and you want to make sure that if your loved one needs a sitter or something like that, you may have to pay out of pocket for that.
Another issue is, what are the things that you see that take a really solid facility into the realm of not such a solid facility? I mean, are there a set of characteristics or things that you need to look for to make sure that you're in the right facility?
Certainly. So, not all facilities or care providers are bad people.
Right.
There are great care providers out there, people that really are passionate and dedicated to their patients. But what happens is, this is a business at the same time. So when you have one nurse assigned to 20 residents, you can be the best and still make errors in medication that you give out, in feeding, in rounding. You can't get to all those residents in a timely fashion. And so it's staffing numbers and their training. Have they gone through the necessary training to be able to provide the care that your resident needs?
Staffing and training. I know we're getting ready to go to break. When we come back, I want to talk just a little bit with Devan about things to look for and signs to look for if you think your loved one may be in a circumstance where there's some level of neglect involved, and what you do under those circumstances.
All right, so Josh set the tone right there, things to look for. So Devan Byrd is going to be talking about patients' rights and protections as we continue with this topic here on the attorneys. We also want to remind you, as we just get started here, that attorneys from Hollis Wright are standing by right now to take your call. Those calls are free. Those calls are confidential. All you have to do is call 1-844-LAW-TALK. That's 1-844-LAW-TALK, and you can reach someone standing by the phone right now. We're going to take a break, but we've got a lot more to deal with right here on The Attorneys. We'll be right back.
Here's some good information from our firm to you. Hollis Wright recently launched the Law Talk podcast. With podcasts becoming so popular, this will be a simple way to provide our loyal viewers with more opportunities to access information about important legal topics and to learn more about our firm and how we can help you if the need ever arises. There are many ways to access the Law Talk podcast. You can simply scan the QR code on your screen. Also, episodes are always available on the Hollis Wright YouTube channel, as well as on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you consume your podcasts. Just search up Hollis Wright in the Law Talk podcast. Don't wait, take advantage and listen today. Thanks for watching The Attorneys, and we know you'll enjoy the Law Talk podcast.
The Attorneys, proudly sponsored by the law firm of Hollis Wright, are here to serve you.
When we started the show in 2011, my goal was to do what our firm does best. Help people answer questions related to real-world legal issues they have in their lives in a way that's not intimidating to talk with a lawyer. If the issue is important to you, it's equally important to us, and we're ready to talk with you at no cost.
Yeah, oftentimes people are confronting various legal issues in their lives that really run the gamut of a lot of different legal practice areas such as bankruptcy, criminal law, civil law such as personal injury, divorces, domestic relations. And to be able to have a show once a week that covers those practice areas and answers people's questions in those areas, that's really the main objective of the show.
We use the resources of the many lawyers at our law firm to create a plan that has a lasting impact for each person that calls or texts. And we also give back to the community at the same time. We are here to serve you, the viewer, each week on The Attorneys.
Addiction kills hope.
But at Bradford, it all changes here.
Experience the difference
that proven treatment can make.
Find recovery. Find community.
at Bradford.
Welcome back to The Attorneys, and we're discussing the important topic of nursing home safety. With Josh and I, we have Devan Byrd, attorney Devan Byrd, and we want to talk about, Devan, and Josh kind of teed this up for us, to talk about some of the signs of neglect.
Certainly. Pressure wounds, lost weight, just unexplained, if they're very thirsty. You may have an odor in the room, unkept environment, maybe there's food trays that are being left behind. Those are all signs that maybe something's not right here. If you go and you visit and the staff seems to be hustling around or you don't see them, they may be overworked. Those are some signs to kind of key in on and see what might be going on there. If there's just some complaints about, hey, I'm not getting to go to the bathroom, or I'm in some pain and no one comes when I call.
Let's talk just for a second about, you mentioned two of the most important things are training and staffing.
Certainly.
As it relates to staffing, is there a good metric? Like, is it one staff member to every 5 patients? Like, do you have an assessment that you can provide of, hey, this is what you should look for, or is every nursing home different based on volume?
It can be a little different based off of the needs of the residents. So if a resident requires 2 assists to get out of bed, that's going to take more staff members on that. I wish we could achieve the 1 staff to every 5 residents, because I think we could really be able to keep folks from falling, be able to go to the bathroom, because a lot of times folks call. I've seen it. I've gotten the call logs where they press the button and no one comes for hours, and they're hitting the button. And that's where we have falls that are fatal injuries. That's where we develop not just pressure wounds, but the skin breaks down. They get fatal infections. If we can achieve 1 staff person to be able to attend to the needs of 5 patients, every 5 patients, I think that would be, we would see a change. But financially, they don't want to do that.
It sounds to me like being active as a family member, whether it's one individual consistently going to visit or multiple family members sharing that load with a loved one, is also a critical component to be able to really assess what's going on.
Yeah, you don't want the staff to be able to predict, hey, every Tuesday, you know, the daughter comes to visit and they read a book, they play some games. You want to kind of pop up on them sporadically and keep the staff on their toes. Ask questions, hey, have there been any changes to my mom's care plan? they should tell you that. You want them to tell you that. And by keeping up with the care plan, then you can also key in on if their needs are being met, or if their needs have increased. You want to know. You want to know if they've been sick, and you may not get that in a 20, 30-minute meeting with your loved one.
Yep.
And say you go out, you mentioned some of the signs of neglect. You go into the facility, you notice these things, you smell the odor you talked about, and you just know something's not right here. What kind of rights does a patient have in a situation like that?
Great question.
That's a great question. So every patient has the right to dignity. That means you shouldn't be in filth. That means that you should be taken care of. If you need to go to the bathroom, if you want your hair done every day, you should get cleaned every day. You have the right to like if you want to raise a complaint and not have to worry about retaliation. So there are lots of patient rights, and what you need to do as a loved one is you can raise those issues with the nurse. If you don't get a see change, you can then start talking to the administration at the facility. There's always a director of nursing. So that's the individual that's going to oversee all of the nurses in the facility, all of the caretakers in the facility. There's then an administrator at the facility that's going to coordinate the care from the doctor, the nurse practitioner, all the nursing staff, and all the therapies. So if you're not seeing the results you want, escalate it kindly, we know, but the squeaky wheel gets the grease in these situations.
Yeah. What is, it sounds like there's a care plan. That care plan doesn't just get thrown together. Like,
No.
Do the loved ones play a role in assisting, if they desire to, with the care plan to make sure that that care plan meets the needs of that person?
Certainly.
Okay.
And so a care plan is actually kind of established what's required by federal law. Okay. So by federal law, all nursing facilities are supposed to create individualized care plans. And then a family will get a notice of a care plan meeting. Go to those meetings. If you can't attend in person, there's always an option to attend by phone. I have countless times where families will attend by phone and they get just as much accomplished because maybe they live in California. And so getting to Alabama is just not feasible to attend the care plan meetings, but they want to be involved in care. And that's when a representative from the therapies, from the facility, from the nursing department, and from the physician group will all be there to talk about your loved one, and they will put together what we're in Alabama in the South, call a playbook.
Yeah.
That's the football analogy, it's a playbook. And if the team's not practicing according to the playbook up until Saturday, guess what? It's out the window. So your care plan is your playbook. And if they're not practicing that every day, something is going to fall through the cracks.
Yeah, what I'm hearing also from Devan is really just family members can be involved in this entire process to help put the book together. In addition, working with administrators, if there are issues, you can escalate it tactfully, respectfully, in a way that there's not going to be retaliation, but that you have an opportunity to have your opinions be known to be able to communicate with the administration and the nursing staff, the rehab folks, in order to make sure that they're getting proper care.
Yeah, and I like that term, the playbook.
Yeah.
And, I think everyone can really relate to that. And you were talking about some of the federal laws involved. What about state regulatory agencies? How effective are they in addressing complaints?
Unfortunately, I think I may have talked about this earlier, is that there's not much oversight right now after COVID. It's understaffing, there are lots of needs. Now, you can file a complaint there with the Alabama Department of Public Health, and I've helped folks do that. Maybe their claim doesn't rise to the level of medical malpractice where I would recommend pursuing a claim, but I may recommend that they file a complaint. And a lot of times, since such scarce resources for surveyors, they may go and actually investigate those complaints though, and they will go into the facility.
I noticed too in some of the material that I reviewed to get prepared for today, you cite some statutes and some codifications. Like, what are those? Is there federal statute that helps dictate the care and treatment someone should receive?
Yes, there's the federal code does exactly. It lays out what is required for a care plan, and that is an individualized care plan based off of the diagnosis of your loved one, based off of what their needs are, their medical needs, if they need certain medications, and they have to have it on a schedule. Yeah. that federal law says that you must do that.
All right, and I know we're going to break, but when we come back, I do want Devan to talk about if something goes wrong and you need a lawyer and litigation is necessary. Let's talk about that, because I think that's very important. About what do you do if you're in that circumstance, you've gotten to that point, how do you get to Devan, and what can she do to help you?
All right, we're going to go ahead and take that break. Like Josh says, when we come back, Devan Byrd is going to address when something goes wrong and you need an attorney. She'll tell you what you need to do. Also, what you need to do is also follow Hollis Wright on all the social media platforms, on X, on Facebook, on Instagram. You'll find some great information there. We like sharing that with you. We also have a QR code on the screen. Scan that QR code. That's another way you can get in contact with an attorney at Hollis Wright. And remember that phone call, 844-LAW-TALK, is a free confidential call. Someone is standing by waiting for you to call. Go ahead and do that. We'll take a break. We'll be right back here when you come back. Stay with us.
Thank you for watching The Attorneys each Sunday night, where we come to your living room to provide free legal advice in a confidential, off-air setting. Unfortunately, with the number of calls, texts, and emails that come in during the show, we can't always get to everything. But know this, Hollis Wright is open all week long. You call us at 844-LAW-TALK and we're going to answer your question for free. Thank you for watching The Attorneys, and we look forward to seeing you and talking to you soon.
If this place could talk, it wouldn't. It would sing and celebrate all of our stories of addiction recovery, victory, and community. This is Bradford Health Services. It all changes here.
You are watching The Attorneys, and we are continuing our conversation with attorney Devan Byrd, talking about nursing home safety. And Devan, we wanted to get right to this. Something goes wrong. God forbid that should happen. But if it does, what can I do? And how do you know if you need a lawyer, and what should you do?
Sure, and you know, a lot of what we do, we don't charge for it. I review hundreds of cases a year that I don't recommend litigation, and I don't charge for that. I'm happy to talk to folks because you just don't know. Most of the people that we talk to every day have never dealt with a lawyer before or litigation, but call early, call often. You only have 2 years from the date something goes wrong. That if it's a death, you only have 2 years, and we have to open an estate. So there's lots of steps that you want to come early, you want to come often, because if you come to my office with, let's say, 6 weeks to go on the statute, there's nothing I can do, because I have to get medical records. I have to have an expert look at those medical records and tell me what the facility did wrong or if they did something wrong, because I can't just sue a facility without knowing ahead of time that I have an expert that's going to testify against them.
What is the general statute of limitation for someone who has a bad result, a bad circumstance in a nursing home facility or a rehabilitation facility? How long do they have generally to file those suits?
2 years.
Okay.
And we have to remember that there may be something in your admission agreement called an arbitration agreement. So you may not get to go to court. You may not get a jury. But we need to know. We need to be able to investigate that to figure out what do we have to do. So come early, because you only have 2 years, and that's it.
What do you see most? Like what amounts to litigation where you're actually filing an arbitration, filing a case in court? What do you see the most right now in your practice?
Wounds. Pressure wounds that develop into fatal injuries. They become septic with a blood infection, and typically the resident dies, falls or drops. And those are fatal, where they may fall on their head from a high height and break their neck or something like that, where it's a fatal injury, typically is what we see.
And it sounds like, from your perspective, in order to properly evaluate a case, you're generally consulting with an expert on the front end to determine whether or not there's a violation of the standard of care?
Correct.
And one of the things we hadn't really talked about is no different than a medical malpractice case, a nursing home case against the nursing home facility, it's nurses, rehabilitation counselors, etc. Those also fall under the same Medical Liability Act that doctors do and hospitals.
Correct. And a lot of times folks may not know this when they are admitted, but the doctor or the nurse practitioner that is really directing the care, the quarterback, those folks may not be employed by the facility. So we have to know who are all the players and who's responsible so we can have the right folks sued if we have to sue them or brought into arbitration, because we don't want to leave someone out that is responsible.
And talking about that, you have your investigator check out everything that you may be considering there. What is it that you actually can sue, that you can actually use to sue a facility?
So I also do a lot of FOIA requests. We can submit requests to the government, to maybe a state agency that licensed nurses, and we can find out some information. So there's lots of information that you can get to help with your lawsuit. And what you're suing for, if it's someone that survived, your compensation for what the pain and suffering that they go through. If they were dropped, they have a fracture, they have to go through surgery, that you want compensation for that.
Witnesses, do they help at all?
Oh, certainly they help. I always recommend, if folks can, take notes when you're there. Know who the nurses and the caregivers are typically for your loved one. Those people are advocates because, again, they can be great providers, but if you're given 20 residents to care for on an 8-hour shift, there's just a limit. They're human beings.
Just because someone signed an arbitration agreement on the front end does not mean that they're incapable of recovering. There are arbitration proceedings with circumstances where you can get good results. Is that fair?
That's correct.
What do you generally advise people you have to prove in order to win one of these cases? Because they're not all simple cases.
No.
It's not like a car accident or a trucking case where you're just proving basic negligence. You've got certain hurdles you got to jump over.
Correct. We break it down into two things. We have to prove that they breached the standard of care. That means that if your loved one was in a facility a mile down the road, they would have been treated differently. If they were 2 states away, they would have been treated differently, and that would have prevented the outcome, be it death or additional injury, whatever it may be, that it was directly caused and linked by what the nursing home facility failed to do.
I noticed in your material that you helped get to us to prepare for this show, something called See Something, Say Something.
Absolutely.
That seems simple, but boy, that really is applicable for what we're talking about today.
Certainly. If you see your loved one, I always say don't have any shame in doing your own skin audit. Look them head to toe. You may pick up on anything, and you know them the best. You know them better than any of the folks at the facilities, even if they've taken care of them for years. So if you see something, say something.
This is why you go to an expert like Devan. She's fabulous, and if you've got a nursing home case, we need to get you to her.
Yeah, we truly enjoyed it. Devin, thanks a lot. Josh,
great job.
As always, great job. And to you at home, thank you once again for watching The Attorneys. We hope you'll see you back here again next week, same place, same time.
Thanks for watching The Attorneys, sponsored by Hollis Wright.